Yo, what is up guys, it's your boy Clouds and welcome back to my channel. Today we are back again with a new Deepwoken video and we're going to be doing an elemental tier list today. Basically going to be ranking all of the mantras from worst to best in my opinion, and this is just completely based on my experience. So if you guys disagree, it's completely fine. I'm just basing off of my experience and what I believe they're placed at. Now this is going to be both a PvE and PvP tier list. So I'm going to be taking account of both things in that regard. So yeah, let's get straight into it, boys. Alright, so obviously as you guys heard in the beginning, this is basically me ranking all the elements from worst to best. If you guys are interested and want me to do more tier lists, such as like ranking enchants, curses, monsters, let me know. I'd be down to do it. So first off, coming in F tier, nothing. There's nothing in F tier. There's literally nothing in F tier, and the reason there's nothing in F tier is because I don't think there's anything bad in the game. That bad in the game at least. Coming into C tier. Nothing as well. All right, enough with the jokes. So coming straight into the first actual tier, I do believe that this is under the rest of the elements, and it is B tier. We have Shadow by itself. Now the reason I actually have Shadow in B tier by itself is because I just feel like, by the way, before I go on further, I should mention that this is both the PvP and PvE tier list. I feel like Shadow gets a little bit outshined by the other elements in PvP just a bit, as well as not having as much utility in PvE, as much to offer. Not to say Shadow is bad by any means. We all know every single element in this game is very good in their own ways. And again, this is just based off of my opinion strictly and my experience. I faced a lot of players, and usually when I run into Shadow players, I don't feel like as much of a threat as like some of the other elements on this list. Not to mention, like I mentioned, the utility. Shadow doesn't really have anything to offer as far as utility. Doesn't really have much to deal with runners, in my opinion. Whereas some of the other elements on this list do have things to deal with runners, and that's something you got to really think about in Deepwoken. Utility and stuff to deal with runners, how it's going to help you live, stuff like that. Like it really does make an impact on your core gameplay. Now, does this mean Shadow is bad in any way? No, I don't think. Every single tier that separates the elements, I don't think there's much really of a gap between them. I just think it's minor small things that maybe slightly put an element above another. So I just want to kind of get that out the way and kind of clear that confusion, any confusion that may cause. I'm not, just because one element is a tier above the other doesn't mean it's like worlds apart, but it usually just means like one or two things that just separates the element in my mind that caused me to believe one's above the other, you know what I'm saying? So I just don't think Shadow has as much to offer as some of the other elements, although it is very good. It's just kind of my opinion on what I believe it is at placed at. So yeah, B tier Shadow, because it doesn't really, have as much to offer. It's very good though. It's very good, but this is probably like one of the most boring elements for me in the game as well. Obviously I know there's some people that enjoy it, but that may have also contributed towards me putting it in B tier. I never really had fun with Shadow. Not that it's like a bad element, but I don't know, it was just kind of boring for me. But yeah, getting into A tier. And by the way, I want to mention, again, all of the elements are pretty close to each other in my opinion. Like, they're all kind of just very similar. This game is pretty balanced. Not to mention, not to say there isn't any broken things, because there was a point where Frost was broken. Like, just look at this clip right here.
Yo, what the?
Yeah, like, Frost literally got nerfed because of exactly that reason. So there's definitely elements that are better than others, but for the most part the game has decent balance. But coming into B tier, obviously we see Flame and Frost. I have this tier unordered because I didn't really know what like order placement to put them. It was a little bit difficult, but let's start off with Flame. Flame is A tier because it has really high utility. Flame, you have the ability to, start your own campfires, as well as if you have Azure Flames, you can have your flames be even stronger than you normally would with the trade-off of having to put willpower. But the blue flames, Azure Flames, it burns, like it does a lot more damage than regular flames, right? And with Azure Flames, if you have Undying Flame, you're able to use it in the depths. Now this is really helpful because if you're a solo player and you don't have fire, you'll only be able to stay in the depths for a certain amount of time. You have a little time limit. Depending on how much willpower you have, the more you'll be able to stay in there. But the longer you're in the depths, your screen will start to become really blue. When your screen becomes blue, that means you're going insane. And when it goes really blue, eventually you'll just kill yourself. So it gets to a point where you're going to have to leave the depths at some point. If you have Azure Flames with Undying Flame and you're able to use that campfire in the depths or Graceful Flame, you're able to regen some of your insanity. So realistically, you can stay almost as long as you want if you have an Azure Flames user in your group. Or if you're an Azure Flames user as a solo, you could really realistically stay as long as you want. So because of this utility, I feel like Flame can't be anything under A tier. It really can only go up from there, unless it got like nerfed as far as damage. Now here's the thing. I feel like Flame isn't as good in PvP as some of the other elements. Like I don't know. I just don't feel like it's as good as like Gale or Thunder, which obviously at this point you guys know Gale and Thunder is S tier, but hopefully y'all stay for my explanation on why it's S tier. Anyways, yeah, I mean, like, it's really good for utility in terms of PvE and progression. If you want to have the easiest time as a solo, Flame's probably the way to go. You have so much utility. I mean, you have Graceful Flame. You can summon a campfire. You don't even need wood. You have the ability to, you know, just to make the spark. You don't need flint ever. You have the ability to go as your flames, get Undying Flame, and use flames in the depths, which if you're a solo player is really helpful. Not to mention you have mobility moves like Flame Leap. You have that one Flame Assault move where it has like, it's kind of like a dash, which tracks towards a player. You have Flame Palm. There's a lot of long ranged moves with Flame, which helps in catching runners. So yeah, Flame really does have a lot of utility in my opinion. Like, it is one of the best utilities mantras in the game in my opinion. So that's pretty much why I put Flame where I put Flame. Frost, the reason Frost didn't get S tier is because it's been receiving some nerfs. I'm not saying Frost is bad now, but it doesn't seem as busted as it was before. Like, you all seen that clip before with the Ice Blade or whatever. They tweaked that a little bit, and it's just not as busted as before, but it's still broken. Don't get me wrong, it's still broken. And there's only a few things that really separate Frost from the other two elements, in my opinion, which I will go over in a second. But Frost is really good, has really high damage, good AoE. It even has some utility moves, such as like, I think it's like Ice Arc or something like that. It's like that long arc move you could walk on. That's gonna really help you in the depths. If you guys want to go to, like, you know, parkour on the top of the walls or whatever, so you don't have to go through the bells and find the elements or whatever. But no, Ice is pretty good. Ice has some good ranged moves. It's not as good as keeping up with runners, in my opinion, as like some of the other elements. It doesn't really have much to do with runners, which is the one thing that sucks about Ice. It doesn't have much to do with runners, but it's still very good in my opinion. Like, the damage is crazy. Utility is pretty good because it does have some, like, you know, mobility moves. It actually has one of the best mobility moves in the game, Ice Skate. It even has some abilities where, like, if you're on ice, you know, the ether required to use moves is less. So that sparks on builds. There was this one build, this guy was like Fists Ice or something like that, and he had like 100 points into intelligence, so he could just spam his mantras. And this was when Ice was really in his like peak, when it was like busted. He could just spam his moves. And it was broken. So Ice definitely has a lot going for it in my opinion. So yeah, that's pretty much wrapping up the A tier. And again, I know I probably said this plenty of times, but any element you use, even if it's the lowest element, like lowest tier on this list, any element you use in this game is going to be good, so long as you're good. This game's pretty skill based in the sense that even if you're using an element that's worse than the others, if you're skillful, you're gonna make up the difference, you know. So it's not like elements don't really make up as much of a difference as skill does, if that makes sense. But coming into S tier, I mean, obviously, you guys probably do. This is gonna be like this: Gale and Thunder. Now, there's a reason I placed these kind of like where I did. I feel like these two are definitely the best monsters in the game, but it's not by far. But let's start off with Gale. These are unordered, by the way, too. Everything on this tier list or ranking has been unordered because I feel like it's easy to place them in their own category. But when they're in the same category, it's hard to like nitpick and put one above the other. So that's kind of why I have all these unordered. You guys can, you know, have the luxury of ordering wherever you want if you guys want to do that. But Gale, I mean, this should come as no surprise. A lot of the Wave 0 testers and a lot of the, you know, quote unquote pro players use Gale. And it's really good. Like, Gale does crazy amounts of damage. You have the ability to play super aggressive with Gale. Like, it has really good moves, and it's one of the best in the game, or the best in the game, for catching up with runners. Like, when I have Gale, when I'm dealing with runners, Gale Lunge, Wind Blade, Wind Gun, Wind Shotgun, you know, all these moves to deal with these runners, all these long-ranged, quick mobility moves to deal with runners. It's crazy. Not to mention the mobility of Gale, the jump, the jump slide. There's so many moves with Gale that are crazy. Not to mention all the different combos, the damage, the ability to be aggressive, speed, as well as versatility. I mean, Gale really does have a lot of versatility. Gale is good with any type of weapon. Light, I've seen builds with fists, Gale, medium, heavy Gale. It goes good with everything. And if you have Gale, you're just going to have a solid time in the game. Now, does this mean you're just going to be able to beat everybody just because you have Gale? No. But Gale really does have most of the tools you need to have a good time in this game. Now, the only thing it's missing is a little bit of, in my opinion, the only thing Gale's really missing is as much utility as like Flame or like, Frost. But it still does have pretty good utility with the mobility and stuff like that. Like if you're in the depths, you're probably going to be able to parkour up to the gate and get out that way because of the jump, the double jump or whatever. But that's the only thing it's missing in my opinion. Like Gale is really just an all-around package deal in my opinion. The only thing it's really missing is the utility that some of the other ones have. But I feel like PvP makes a huge difference in this game. PvP and PvE is really a big part of the game, but late game PvP is really going to matter a lot, and Gale has definitely got that, down packed. Like in PvP, Gale is crazy. It has all the utilities you need, to utilities to, 1v2, 1v3, 1v4. You've seen Agamasu, Lord Sendo, and all these other, pro players use Gale in this fashion, and it's just really equipped. Like the best way I can describe it is it's just equipped with everything you need to be good in the game. So that's kind of why I place Gale where it is. Maybe a little biased too, because Gale is probably my favorite element. I have the most fun with Gale. It's a very fun element in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I place it. Now Thunder, pretty much the same thing. Thunder is up there with Gale in terms of like catching runners. You have Grand Javelin. You also have the Talent Grand Skewer, which carries people with Grand Javelin. So it's really good for catching up with runners. Not to mention you have like Lightning Assault. You have like Lightning, I think it's not Lightning Strike. I don't remember which one it is, but it has a lot of long range moves. And pretty much in the same sense of Gale, it's very aggressive. I don't think Thunder Call is as versatile as Gale. I know I've never seen anyone do a Thunder Call heavy build, but I've seen like, Thunder Call fist build, Thunder Call medium build. But it's pretty much the same thing. Thunder Call, like it's really good combos, good damage, really quick. Has pretty good utility as well. I don't think it has as much utility as Gale because like it doesn't really have like a double jump. Doesn't really have. Actually, no, I'm forgetting you can make the spark with Thunder Call, so it does have some utility. You don't need flint to start fire. You still need the wood, but yeah, that's definitely something you get with Thunder Call. But yeah, these two elements, I mean, like it's no surprise that these two elements made it up here. Pretty much most of the Wave 0 testers who've been playing the game for like 2 years use one of these two elements. Not to say these are the ones everyone uses, but what I've noticed throughout my time playing this game is that most of these Wave 0 and Wave 1 testers that are really experienced with the game end up using these two elements for a reason. They're really just equipped with most of the tools and everything you need to be good at the game. Like Thunder Call, it's really high damage. You can be aggressive, great for catching runners, And I mean, really, it's just like I said, it's just equipped with like all the stuff you need to be good at the game. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my list, boys. Let me know what you guys think about it. If you guys disagree, agree, I'm just curious to see, what you guys think about it. Because again, this is just based on my experience and what I believe that the mantras are all placed at. And I said this a lot in the video, but these are all pretty close. Like, even though Shadow's in B tier and not in a higher tier, that doesn't mean you can't beat someone that has Gale and Thunder. I just feel like, me personally, I just feel like Thunder and Gale have, better qualities than Shadow does. That doesn't mean Shadow's bad in any way. That's just, personally how I feel. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the list. Let me know what you guys would change. I'm curious to hear all of that. And yeah, hopefully y'all are having a great day, and I'll see you on the next one, boys. Peace.